Her badly mutilated body was found yesterday, thrown away like trash in a dumpster. Cops say she died within 90 minutes of being snatched. The autopsy report says that during that very short time, this 7-year-old girl, look at this face, look at those innocent, trusting eyes. Like the lady said, she'd make friends with anybody. She was sexually assaulted, stabbed, and bludgeoned to death. What kind of monster is capable of such horrific violence against a young child? Cops are determined to find him. Tonight, police investigating a possible crime scene, a vacant apartment just steps away from little Jorelys' home, where they found a mattress and blood. Cops say this killer is on the loose right in this neighborhood.
The investigators feel very strongly that the killer of the child resides in the apartment complex or has readily access to that apartment complex.
Well, naturally, the neighborhood moms are terrified. They're out of their minds with fear. They won't let their kids out of their sight for a second.
Scared to let my kids go anywhere.
What do you think about this nightmare? What should be done about this hideous violence against children? Call me 1-877-JVM says, 1-877-586-7297. Straight out to HLN law enforcement analyst Mike Brooks, who is on the ground at the scene. I understand there is some activity right now. What's going on?
Well, Jane, the director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Vernon Keating, he just got here. The building behind me, this is where the command center is. This is where the tip line is located. You have all the law enforcement officials inside here. They've told me today that I think, and as a former investigator, Jane, it sounds like they're narrowing their focus. They said they are looking at a number of people who could be involved in this. They're not naming any suspects right now, but my gut tells me it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when they get this monster, as you described, Jane.
Did you get a sense with all these top cops arriving on the scene that something is about to break in a little while, that they're sort of getting ready to make an announcement, Mike?
No, just talking to them, I'm kind of getting a feeling that they might be moving closer to this. Their crime scene investigators were back at what we believe is that vacant apartment. Jane, that vacant apartment is in the building right next to Jorelys, and we tried to get as close as we could today because we were one of the only people on the scene today, kind of doing a walkthrough and looking at everything that they were doing. And there were 3 crime scene vans from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation that were processing that apartment. We don't know what kind of evidence they got today, but we did see some people here, some evidence technicians with brown evidence bags, walking into this command post area earlier today, Jane.
Well, as Mike just mentioned, Jorelys' body found in an apartment complex dumpster that uses a trash compactor. So it was compacted. This area, this dumpster that held this child's body, could that hold the key? Check this out.
This is the trash compactor where Jorelys' body was placed. By who? That remains to be seen. But here is the hopper. This is where the trash is placed down. And you see the hole. You see that hole there? Well, that's where the trash gets pushed into the green compactor. Now, how do you do that? There's only one way to do it, and you have to have a key to put in here to turn to do that.
Well, that certainly raises a question. Is the person responsible a person who might have obtained that key? We've heard unconfirmed reports that cops have given polygraphs to the maintenance staff. We have not been able to confirm it, but you got to wonder who has a key to work the machine. Veronica Waters, reporter, WSB Radio. What have you heard about cops honing in? I mean, obviously they're narrowing their search. They've already said they believe it's somebody who is either living in this apartment complex, works at the apartment complex, or visits regularly, has access. What do you know?
Jane, this The GBI director has said, as you just pointed out, that this predator either works, lives, or has easy access to this complex. What this is telling us is that everyone who is on the staff is going to be under suspicion until whether or not those polygraph exams come back. Planned crime here. This was not someone who was a predator who waited for the first opportunity necessarily, but someone who waited for the best opportunity. Carefully constructed, carefully planned was the way that this crime played out. They have been examining this vacant apartment where they say that the crime apparently took place and analyzing evidence that they say appears to be blood. They're very tight-lipped on exactly what forensic tests they are running or what other DNA evidence might have been in that apartment. But they are sure that early on right now is the crime scene where little Jorelys was killed.
All right, so you got a vacant apartment, you've got a mattress, you've got blood, and you've got authorities honing in on the garbage dump, the compactor where the child's remains were found, and so they are putting together the pieces. Pat Brown, what do you make of it at this point? Does it have to be somebody who either lives, works, or has access, visits this complex?
I think so, and the number one reason is her body wasn't taken away in a vehicle. Because if you had a vehicle, first of all, if you're coming by, maybe you saw her on the street and grabbed her, you would take her someplace else and dump her body where it wouldn't be found, and you keep going on your way. This person clearly does not have a vehicle, so when he killed her, what's he going to do but dump her in the dumpster? And I'd like to say that I don't agree that this is a well-planned crime. This guy's extremely violent. It's an anger retaliatory serial killer, which means he always has his eye open for somebody. And, if it comes into his path, I don't think he planned this terribly well. He would have done a better job than put her body in the dumpster. I think this poor little girl came across that street. It just happened to be, he saw that she was alone. Nobody was around. He snatched her. And I do believe he may be maintenance. I think that is a good thing to look at because he knew that room was available. And we see this happens over and over again where we see somebody working on a property, knows has a key to a room or has an empty room available. And when that little victim comes by, that's where they end up and they just take their opportunity.
Well, you got to wonder, though, if it was next door, if it was a vacant apartment complex close, you got to wonder if somebody would not have heard her screaming, though. So that's what I find a little troubling about this. There's so many troubling things. I mean, the child might have been muffled in some way by somebody's hand. I don't even want to think about it. It's too horrible. I've got to tell you that on the other side of the break, we have a very special guest, one of my heroes. And she, too, lost her precious daughter to violence. Very similar, eerie similarities. Her child was also playing innocently right in the play area, right connected to her home. I'm talking about Erin Runyon. And we're also taking your calls. 1-877-JVM says the search for the killer of this beautiful 7-year-old girl. What happened to her? Who did it? Cops are closing in.
Take care of your children. Pray for them and don't ever. I don't have any babies, but you have to be very careful with them.
To me, it's obvious that whoever done it's around here somewhere.
At first, I thought it was a lie, but when I got here, my whole world fell apart. They told me that it was true and that they had taken her away.
I asked the state of Georgia that the person who committed this atrocity, that they throw the full force of the law at him, because they need to stop this. They need to stop this abuse against children.
That was the father of this sexually assaulted and murdered child. He and the mother of the child have both been cleared by authorities. They are not involved. Now, reports are little Jorelys' mom temporarily lost custody of her 2 younger children, ages 1 and 4. She was actually in court yesterday trying to get them back. We don't know the outcome, but cops said, well, the mom had absolutely nothing to do with her child's disappearance, but she didn't supervise well enough. However, I want to bring in Erin Runyon, whose precious daughter, Samantha Runyon, was killed. There are eerie similarities, and you are one of my heroes because you have started the joyfulchild.org fighting to protect children. Look at this beauty who was taken, also snatched while playing in the yard. This mom works the overnight shift. She works a factory job overnight. She sleeps in the daytime. She had apparently a teenage relative watching the child who didn't do a very good job, who wandered off. But, I mean, this is a dilemma in our culture that mothers who work, their children still have to play, and sick minds take advantage of that to snatch these children, Erin.
You're absolutely right. Vulnerability wouldn't exist if there weren't bad people looking for opportunities to take advantage of it. You know, we have a terrible tendency to blame the victims and the families of the victims in these cases, and the reality is our children should be able to play outside safely. Yes, there is a lot that we as parents can do to better create safer communities for them to play, but my heavens, she was in her own complex when this happened.
She was playing in her yard, and I know that this has to really hit you in an unimaginable way, because your precious daughter Samantha was also playing right next to your house. I've been to the yard. I covered your story, and it was right there. In the Mayberry world, it's exactly where kids are supposed to play, Erin.
When there's more than one child playing outside together, and that's part of why we do adult education. But the main thing is we've got to teach, train, and empower our children to be safer, to recognize typical tricks that predators use, and to give them some physical defense skills to get away from these people if anybody tries to take them.
Well, go to thejoyfulchild.org and check this out. Every parent needs to learn what Erin Runyon is trying to teach them. I want to go to the phone lines now. They're lighting up. John, New Jersey, your question or thought, John? John, are you there? Well, I got to say this. This crime was so terrible. The director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, he refused to describe the injuries. That's how bad it was.
The victim died as a result of blunt force trauma to the head, that the victim had been stabbed, and that the child had been sexually assaulted. There were also other injuries to the child, which I'm not going to describe.
Cops say they've questioned all the registered sex offenders in the area, approximately 83 of them, and at this point, none of them are considered suspects. Okay, John, New Jersey, your question or thought, John? All right. Let me do this. Let's talk a little bit about the area where this happened, okay? We're now understanding that this crime could have taken place within 100 yards of the playground where little Jorelys and her siblings and friends played. Here's the layout of a possible crime scene.
It's just a number of steps from that playground over here to the 9000 building where Jorelys lived. It's just a short distance. It's just basically a stone's throw away. And she lived down here on the first floor of this apartment building. So you see some police line tape. It's that we believe is the vacant apartment that they talked about finding the mattress with blood on it.
Mike Brooks, why was this apartment unlocked? We've reached out to the apartment complex management. We have not gotten a response. Does a vacant, unlocked apartment invite trouble?
I would say as an investigator it does, Jane. But again, was it unlocked? Did somebody maybe have a key? Did they know the combination if there was a Knox box? Because right upstairs, one floor above this terrace apartment that they were working on today, that they were processing, Jane, is another vacant apartment that has a Knox box with a code on it that has keys to get into that apartment. But then again, anybody who works in that complex would have a master key. Anybody who does maintenance in the apartment. So nobody has been ruled out at all, Jane. Anybody who lives there or anybody who works there.
Pat Brown, a couple of seconds. Do you think they're going to make an arrest soon? I'm getting that feeling.
Well, I think in this case, Jane, they've got a better chance than most cases I've seen recently. They have a body. They have all the evidence that came with that body because it was found so soon after. They have a location of the crime scene, and they've got a great little pool of suspects right there. So I'd say there's hope to get this guy off the street and keep him off the street forever.
Up next.